faithful viewers of Equinoxe Television, it's 6 p.m. by 6 o'clock, and it's time for the news. We thank you so much for joining us tonight. Our major stories this evening, viewers. Tensions are running high in Cameroon following the death of Anicet. His family and political party Manidem clash over funeral arrangements of the freedom fighter. Details of that in this news edition. And also, the historian Professor Zengwa again comes back to the possible and why not the concrete measure to the impasse of the Anglophone problem. We'll be telling you more also in this news edition, and we will also in this news edition be telling you about the passing away of the former Minister of Post and Telecommunications, Jean-Pierre Biti, who breathed his last. That was today in Israel. Those are our lead stories, viewers. Details and more when we come back. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for always being with us. Thank you for your usual confidence. We told you a while ago that tensions are running high somehow in the country following the death of the freedom fighter Anicet as his family and political party clash over funeral arrangements amidst controversy. A tribute is being organized by the diaspora while a new funeral program has been set by his son. Immaculate Fogwe with more.
The controversy surrounding Anicet's funeral continues to spark tensions between the family and his political party. At the heart of this turmoil, a tribute is being organized by the diaspora on April 24 to 25, 2026, with a press conference and a peaceful march to take place. The program was announced by Augusta Epagna, member of the organizing committee.
Alors, les choses vont se dérouler de la manière suivante.
The event will unfold as follows. On Friday, we will hold a conference that will retrace Anicet's life, his commitment and struggles. This will be followed by a peaceful march starting at 3:30 to 4 p.m. There will also be traditional ceremonies as is customary in times of mourning.
Cérémonies de danse, des cérémonies un peu traditionnelles.
Meanwhile, in Cameroon, a new funeral program has been set for Saturday, May 9, 2026 in Bomonoga in the Mongo Division. The organization is entrusted to his son, Dr. Muna Ekane, with the support of traditional leaders. However, Manidem Party claims not to be associated with this decision and will communicate the funeral program later due to ongoing lawsuit between the widow and the deceased children.
Le Manidem et également la veuve de son président Ekane.
Just to clarify that Manidem and Anicet's widow are not involved in the circulating funeral announcement. The initial dates of April 23rd to 25th were postponed due to the ongoing lawsuit. We'll keep you updated on the new dates, and we are counting on all Cameroonians to come together to give our president a befitting burial. The case remains marked by judicial controversy. The Douala Bonanjo District Court had entrusted the organization of the funeral to Dr. Muna Ekane, prohibiting the Lakantini Hospital in Douala from releasing the body to the widow, contrary to the politician's will.
Meantime, Cameroon is mourning the passing away of former Minister of Post and Telecommunications, Jean-Pierre Biti, who passed on in Israel. That was in the early hours of today. And he left behind a legacy of service to the nation and international diplomacy, since he was also the ambassador to Israel. In the report which comes up next, our reporter Mala Glory tells us more, or tells us a little, about who Jean-Pierre Biti was.
Jean-Pierre Biti, former Cameroonian minister, died on Wednesday night, breaking Thursday, April 23, 2026 at 2 a.m. And according to sources, he died in Israel at the age of 76. A trained journalist and graduate from ESTIC, Advanced School of Mass Communication, Yaoundé. Jean-Pierre Biti held several high-profile positions throughout his career. He served as Minister of Post and Telecommunications and was later appointed Cameroon's ambassador to Israel, a role he held from 2018 until February 2026. His professional journey was long, influential, and was also contested by many Cameroonians. One of the most notable episodes of his career dates back to 2009 when he was serving as Minister of Communication. He was accused of depositing 130 million francs of public funds into his personal bank account, money intended to finance media coverage of Pope Benedict XVI to Cameroon. The case generated widespread attention, but his career continued despite the controversy. No public conviction ever brought the matter to a formal close, leaving a lasting impression on public opinion. For many observers in Cameroon, the episode highlighted broader concerns about the gap between allegations and accountability within certain cycles of power. Beyond the controversy, Biti Isam also leaves behind a notable intellectual legacy. He held 3 doctorates, occupied key technical roles at the higher levels of government. This includes technical advisor at the Ministry of Higher Education, chargé de mission at the General Secretary of the Presidency of the Republic, Director of Information at Cameroon Radio Television CRTV, chargé d'études at the Ministry of Information and Scientific Research. His legacy remains a complex blend of public service, intellectual achievement, and unresolved controversy.
Our sincere condolences to the bereaved family. Now we talk health. 1 out of 10 women in Cameroon die from Preeclampsia, a serious hypertensive condition that can occur during pregnancy. Women carrying twins are particularly at risk, with incidences of 10.1% and 8.9% respectively. And to raise awareness among pregnant women, healthcare professionals met in Douala. Our reporter Sedu Chakutu was there.
In Cameroon, 1 out of 10 women die of preeclampsia. Preeclampsia is the most common and serious hypertensive disorder in pregnancy. Its mortality rate remains high in developed countries and even higher in African countries.
Preeclampsia is a multi-systemic disease where the first symptom is increase of blood pressure above 140 for the systolic and 90 for the diastolic. When this increase in blood pressure is accompanied by certain symptoms, including reduced urine flow, including headache, which does not respond to usual treatment, including blur vision and other things like epigastric pain, it is termed as severe preeclampsia or preeclampsia with severe features.
Preeclampsia is frequently observed in women carrying twins or macrosomic fetuses with frequencies of 10.1% and 8.9% respectively. Multiparous women who presented preeclampsia often had hypertension or diabetes, eclampsia being the main maternal complication.
One of the reasons is that poor access to quality care. Many women who are still delivering in the hospital or in centers with suboptimal material, equipment, and human resources.
To determine the prevalence of preeclampsia and describe its complications, a symposium mixed of gynecologists and other experts was organized at Lakentini Hospital in Douala.
The best prevention for the population is to go for hospital whenever you are pregnant. Because when you are pregnant, they will establish your profile as a woman. Now, when they have established your profile, we will see whether they give you some drugs to prevent the disease or whether they simply monitor your blood pressure at each consultation. So the best way to prevent it is antenatal care whenever you are pregnant.
Experts report a higher risk in women over 30, that is multiparous women having had at least 5 births.
Quand vous avez une première grossesse, quand vous avez des grossesses multiples, c'est-à-dire des jumeaux ou des grossesses triples, si vous avez des antécédents personnels ou familiaux d'hypertension artérielle ou de prééclampsie, l'obésité, les antécédents de maladies rénales chroniques.
According to experts, efforts are on the way to improve diagnosis and care, particularly to detect the disease before eclampsia attacks.
Still in health, poliomyelitis is also one of the viruses which affects children across the national territory, and in their report which comes up next, Innocent Anicet tells us that vaccinating children is being advised by medical practitioners. Let's have details in this report by Innocent Anicet.
From the far north to the north, including the Adamawa, East, Central and Littoral regions, health authorities are stepping up efforts to halt the spread of poliomyelitis, still a persistent threat in border communities and areas with low routine immunization coverage. Public health authorities in the Littoral region and across the 5 other high-risk regions are gearing up for round 1 of a mass vaccination campaign scheduled from April 23rd to the 26th.
This campaign is coming up because we have detected polio cases at the level of countries that share boundaries with Cameroon, that's around countries of the Lake Chad Basin. As well as at the level of the country, a few months back, we also detected cases of polio. And you know, a single case of polio is tantamount to an outbreak or to an epidemic.
Poliomyelitis, commonly known as polio, is a highly infectious viral disease that primarily affects young children. It attacks the nervous system and in severe cases can lead to irreversible paralysis or even death.
It's a vaccination campaign that targets children from 0 to 59 months, children from 0 to 5 years. And at the level of the littoral region, we have a target of almost about 664,000 children that we are supposed to vaccinate.
To ensure maximum coverage, health workers will adopt a door-to-door strategy, administering oral polio vaccine drops directly to children.
Our vaccination is not only limited at the level of the health facilities, but also at the level of schools, churches, and any other place around the community where people are gathered. Will be able to mount our vaccination posts at that level. But the most effective strategy is door-to-door. It means our teams will be able to move from one household to another to make sure that the parents are informed before the teams can pass by.
Despite progress recorded in recent campaigns, authorities say misinformation and lack of awareness remain the leading causes of vaccine refusal. Community mobilizers are therefore intensifying sensitization efforts to ensure at least 95% of parents are informed before vaccination teams arrive. Health officials insist that
besides the other preventive measures that we implement, vaccination is the most effective method to be able to prevent diseases, especially polio.
Public health officials emphasize that polio is entirely preventable, with global cases reduced by 99% since 1988. The one that every missed child remains a risk, making this campaign a race to protect every last child.
In other news, the Douala 3 Council has unveiled its 2025 financial performance, reflecting improved revenue mobilization and ongoing developmental efforts. Yet, as councillors move to adopt the administrative budget, residents say more needs to be done to improve access to potable water, sanitation, road infrastructure, and electricity. Innocent Anicet attended the council session dedicated to the examination and adoption of the 2025 administrative budget.
Presenting key figures during this session, authorities revealed that the 2025 initial budget stands at 6.125 billion francs CFA, with total revenue emissions of 4.35 billion and actual payments at 3.71 billion francs CFA. Revenue mobilization recorded a 30% increase compared to 2024.
We increased our resources. The resources have increased from something like 30%. And then for the result itself has increased. But the main problem is that behind that result, you have to some bill that they have not paid. So we asked the council to give us the right to pay those bills and then to pay the former bills, the one of the former years.
But the financial picture remains under strain. More than 605 million francs CFA is still expected from the state, while over 305 million francs CFA remains to be recovered from taxpayers. On the expenditure side, commitments exceeded 5.12 billion francs CFA, reflecting continued pressure on spending despite limited inflows. Municipal authorities say several social and infrastructure projects have been delivered across targeted neighborhoods, with plans underway to scale up development efforts.
What we did, in fact, last year, the biggest project is the supplying of solar lights in the whole council. We brought something like 300 lights, and then to cover something like 60 roads. We are hoping that this year we continue to run our budget on the fact that we are following the need of the population.
We know we are facing temporal difficulties, but after all, with the work I have seen today, I have confidence that the future will be better.
Si la municipalité peut nous aider à faire mieux, parce qu'ils font déjà le travail, c'est vrai, mais ils peuvent encore améliorer ce qu'ils font déjà.
Even as residents acknowledge these strides, many are calling for stronger action on waste management.
La gestion des déchets n'est pas assez bonne, tout le monde est affecté par ça.
Road accessibility.
La mairie doit un peu s'accentuer à ce qui concerne les routes, surtout nos routes secondaires, pour un peu limiter la densité de l'embouteillage qui se trouve déjà premièrement à Douala 3e.
Electrification of neighborhoods.
Ce serait mieux pour tout le monde qu'il y ait de la lumière et que ce soit éclairé partout.
And access to potable water.
Beaucoup de personnes se penchent beaucoup plus vers des forages.
With the accounts adopted, attention now shifts to whether these figures will translate in the daily lives of residents in the Douala 3 municipality.
To the Fako division, where the restriction of local councils from collecting some taxes contained in the new law on revenue collection is posing serious issues within some local council areas. A case in point is the Muyuka Council in the southwest region, whose revenue collection percentage for 2025, a year in which the law went into effect, dropped due to the absence of the tax collection chief on the field. The revelation was made during an administrative account session of the council in Muyuka, as you tell us, Rex Afan from Boya.
In 2025, the Muyuka Council faced difficulties in raising funds required to meet the demands of its budget for the year. This was mainly due to the fact that the tax collection agents assigned to the municipality were not actively on the field.
No, insecurity and taxation. The main problem is the taxation. They don't have office here. So by law, the council is not supposed to go down and collect taxes. We are not professionals. My recommendation is this: the SDO have to write officially to the director of the taxes, so that let the person in charge of Muyuka should come and start work.
Notwithstanding the situation, the amount collected within its legally prescribed competence allowed the council to carry out some local projects successfully.
When you go to the market, you realize that there is market hangers. So those gari mami, they are fine now. When you go to Mianja, you see that rehabilitated the catchment, so the population is fine now for good potable water.
This information was revealed during the evaluation of the administrative accounts of the council, during which the divisional officer for Muyuka, representing his superior, the senior divisional officer for Fako, emphasized that the meeting is vital to provide the state with insight into how council affairs are managed.
This meeting is of particular importance as it provides a valuable opportunity to assess the management of the council, both in terms of revenue mobilization and expenditure execution, in line with the regulatory framework in force.
Reforms in tax laws recently passed by Parliament have been reported to slow down some revenue collection processes in councils, thereby delaying project execution as their full implementation is still ongoing. In other news, in the heart of Central Africa, debt is tightening its grip.
Nations across the region are struggling under soaring borrowing costs as shrinking revenues and high debt levels paint a grim fiscal picture. Cameroon, once seen as a pillar of stability, now finds itself at the center of concern, its public debt climbing past 14.5 trillion francs CFA and costly short-term loans eating into national resources. With growth at stake and infrastructure needs still vast, finance experts from across the continent and beyond have gathered in Yaoundé to seek a way out of the region's mounting debt trap via low interest rates. Babila Jonathan with details.
Central African nations are facing high borrowing costs due to increased debt to gross domestic product (GDP) ratios, high rate perception by international rating agencies, and low domestic savings. These costs stifle development, forcing nations to use significant revenue for debt payment rather than infrastructural development. Cameroon, for instance, is increasingly relying on high-cost short-term debt, with recent borrowing including an 8.8% interest rate bond in London, adding significant pressure to the public treasury. As of late 2025, public debt exceeded 14.5 trillion francs CFA, approximately 43.9% of the gross domestic product of the country, driven by infrastructure needs, security costs, and declining oil revenue. Experts from the Central African sub-region and other parts of the globe have converged on Cameroon's political capital Yaoundé to discuss these issues.
We're talking of financing infrastructures, financing our roads, bridges, and so on. So we need to reflect on how efficient we should be when it comes to going to the market to look for funds to finance our economy. That's why this forum is very important for the Minister of Finance of Cameroon and for the economy of Cameroon and even the sub-region.
This colloquium is therefore a forum for in-depth reflection on innovative infrastructure financing solutions in Central Africa, with a particular focus on the role of the regional financial market.
Accessing the financial market, we need to have to reflect on how to access to this market in low cost, because the cost may be very high. So for you to be efficient, you should access to this market with low cost. So we need to reflect on how to do that.
Meantime, critics note that heavy reliance on expensive debt is dangerous, especially as a large portion of the budget of the borrowing nations is often dedicated to debt servicing, reducing funds for developmental projects. While the governments often frame the loans as a sign of confidence in the economic signatures, the high cost are seen as a heavy burden on taxpayers, worsened by the need to repay the debt.
And a prominent Cameroonian academic don and historian, Professor Zengwa, has issued a direct appeal to President Paul Biya calling for justice and sustainable peace in the northwest and southwest regions through the immediate release of political prisoners, troop withdrawal, and constitutional reforms towards federalism. This, according to him, can cure the tensions of the Anglophone crisis. As for me, Armstrong Sander tells us in the report which comes up next.
In an open letter dated after the October 12, 2025 presidential election, Professor Willibrod Zengwa of the University of Yaoundé 1 and the founding president of the Heritage Higher Institute of Peace and Development Studies said the Anglophone crisis remains a national wound that demands urgent healing, warning that continued denial will corrode national unity, the economy, and the country's international image. Congratulating Paul Biya on his re-election, Zengwa Willibrod said Cameroonians would once again live under your leadership despite the deep divisions and the painful memories that Anglophones have endured over the past decades. The scholar traced the conflict to the 1972 dissolution of the Federal Union formed in 1961, arguing that the agreement was founded on equity, mutual respect, and bilingual coexistence, but was gradually eroded by centralization. More than 6 decades after reunification, the Anglophone citizens still feel alienated in the very nation to which they freely acceded, Zengwa wrote. Public offices remain overwhelmingly French-speaking. The judiciary often disregards the principles of common law, and national appointments rarely reflects genuine regional balance. He said the 2016 crisis was not a spontaneous rebellion, but an accumulation of frustrations over decades of neglect and denial, noting that all 11 alternative candidates in the 2025 election placed the Anglophone question at the core of their agendas. On the human cost, Zengwa Willibrod described thousands dead, hundreds of thousands displaced, and the collapse of the educational sector, the health, and the local economies in the northwest and southwest regions. Traditional rulers have abandoned their palaces, entire populations have fled their communities, and now live as internally displaced persons in their own country, he writes. The youth have become vulnerable to radicalization, criminality, or despair. The professor, however, proposes 7 steps for what he calls building a just and cohesive nation. Release all political prisoners, withdraw third-degree military deployment in the northwest and southwest regions, organize a genuine, inclusive, decentralized national dialogue, undertake constitutional reforms towards genuine federalism, consider transitional justice, revive the economy in the northwest and southwest regions, and promote bilingualism through equity. Leadership in times of division is not about asserting power, but about restoring trust, Zengwa told Paul Biya. History offers you a rare and golden opportunity to be remembered as a unifier and a reformer. He warned that peace cannot be decreed, it must be built, and that the Anglophone crisis is not only an Anglophone problem, it is a Cameroonian problem. Cameroon's greatness will not be measured by its monument or its military might, but by how it treats its minorities, its dissenters, and its most vulnerable. The letter concludes, "May your presidency marks the dawn of a new chapter, one where peace is not merely an absence of war, but the presence of justice." For me, I'm Sean Sander, Equinoxe Radio, Douala.
And now let's talk about this land issue in the southwest region. Natives of Mbinde and Meveo Mbenge villages are at loggerheads due to a land tussle involving both villages found in the Fako division. In the southwest region, recently the chief of Meveo Mbenge village, His Royal Highness Henry Ndiko Fonderson, was accused of demolishing homes of residents of the Mbinde village. And in reaction, Chief Henry Ndiko Fonderson says the land on which the Mbinde village is has never belonged to them. In the report that comes up next, Manji Kangibro spoke with the protagonist and now tells us what the problem really is.
The traditional hut known as the Ndawa Banjo of Mbinde village, down, abandoned mattress, food and homes destroyed. This is what we found left in Mbinde village, said to be under Boye subdivision, Fako division of the southwest region. The few houses in the village were destroyed in the early hours of Monday.
The man has spoiled all Mbinde. People were staying here. You have children, wives, everything is down. When I see the destruction, which Chief Fonderson do from Mbinde.
Chief Henry Ndiko Fonderson of Meveo Mbenge village, who is accused of the act, says the land on which Mbinde village was existing on is part of his Meveo Mbenge village. According to Chief Henry Ndiko Fonderson, last February 2025, a notice was served to the few natives of Mbinde village to leave the land, particularly those who had constructed, but the warning wasn't taken into consideration as the chief of the village, who was a uniformed officer, repainted the marked homes, which forced Chief Henry Ndiko Fonderson to send a written complaint to the military court. To further his argument, Chief Henry Ndiko Fonderson also showed a land certificate which shows the land was that of Meveo Mbenge village. With the demolition of houses, the former natives of the land occupied by Mbinde village, who were forcefully evicted, are today back to the land after several years outside. This fight has been on since 2001. But we were all born here, and the graves of our forefathers are also here. We have lived here peacefully until 2001, when a group of persons appeared and said it was their village. But because of the crisis, the chief of our village said we shouldn't confront anyone. I have been here for more than 25 years. The chief's father was our landlord. When he passed on, we enthroned Chief Fonderson. We have never had any problems. According to the chief of Mevio Mebenge village, the disputed piece of land won't serve as a farmland only for its natives, but a section will be used for the construction of Mefkuda Sports Academy, which has already had a green light from the Minister of Sports and Physical Education.
And now let's talk sports. Amputee footballers have concluded a football tournament organized by the Rehabilitation Center in Mutengene and coordinated by the Diocese of Buea. It is aimed at helping them showcase their talent and also demonstrate their strengths during the final in Buea. It attended by Indomitable Lion Fako. The team from the Northwest region triumphed over their opponents from the Southwest. Rex Afon tells us more from Buea.
During the final of the Amputee football tournament, organized by the Associated Rehabilitation Center for the Handicapped, ASH, the team from Bamenda in the Northwest region triumphed over their opponents from the Southwest region by 3-1. It was an exciting encounter, with both teams showcasing tactical skills aimed at breaking down the opposition defense.
I can say this is not the first time that we have been winning. We have won matches. We play in Douala too. And what makes us to play well is the training. Giving effort by our coach that encouraged us to train.
Among those who watched the match from the stands was Indomitable Lion Fai Collins, who expressed his amazement at the skills and determination of the players living with disabilities.
It's always a pleasure for me to chip in something each time I can, to support people that don't have the opportunity, to profit from the sports that they love, which is football. So always coming around to support them and chip in something. It's always my almost pleasure to give back to my community. Honestly, I was surprised the technique and how they managed to play with the touches. For me, I was amazed. We were happy. It was entertaining. We're very happy that we came here today. So I'm going back with the very big satisfaction.
For the organizers, this event was a platform for these athletes to display their talents and prove that their abilities are not limited by their condition.
And since all the way from the North, Southwest province regions to come and play among themselves. Our intention is to showcase to the world that disability is not inability. We work with them, we see them through the assistance of the International Committee on the Members, and we produce their artificial legs. So while they are with us, we see that they have a lot of talent. They decided to bring out these talents.
In front of a cheering crowd, the Bamenda team celebrated their hard-fought victory as they lifted the trophy in triumph.
Thanks, Rex. And that brings us to the end of this edition of the news. Thank you, viewers, for always being with us. Our programs continue tonight. Equinoxe would be yours at 7 p.m. and the news in the French language will be yours at 8 p.m. with Irish Ngono Mala. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television and we will be together again tomorrow same time. Bye-bye for now.